All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode, Conspiracy or Just a Coincidence. So today I was almost late. My guests are always late. This is the most punctual man in the game, Johnny Cirucci. Johnny, thanks for being on the show again, dude.
Is this my friend Jack Allen? Jack, it's great to see you again. Rest absolutely assured. I promise you entirely, it is a coincidence. It all is a coincidence.
Dude, that's what they want us to believe. You're absolutely right. All these things.
Good. So, you've been doing good work, man. I've been catching up, and you've been doing
you.
fantastic work. I got to tell you, your Nephilim debate was, I don't know if I've seen anything like it. That's fantastic. You got Gary on. I was new for Ken Ami. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
He was fantastic. Unfortunately, it must have been so good that in the middle of Ken's opening, that I got the spinning circle of death, and I couldn't go any further. And I'll catch up later. But he was doing a phenomenal job. Can I throw in my opinion? Go ahead. What are you saying?
I would love your opinion, dude. I would love to hear it.
Let me throw in my opinion. That's just because I have.
Yeah, I'd love to hear
it. I've always been suspicious of alternative media, particularly Christian alternative media guys, where that is their biggest thing. The Steve Quayle type folks, and nothing against Steve. I don't know Steve, but I consider it when it's your entirety of focus, I consider it a distraction. And I will tell you that there are people that are evil that run the internet that make sure it's a distraction, that make sure it gets a lot of coverage, a lot of play. Personally, I've been born again since January 16th, 1994. I've been studying the Bible ever since. I'm not an expert in Nephilim, but I got to tell you, I think that there's something there. But I don't think it's worth our primary focus. And there's just way too much going on. And hopefully we'll get to some of that tonight in relation to the fourth and final beast, how Rome never fell. Rome is the fulfillment of Daniel and Revelation. All popes are antichrist. The tribulation is now. We're in the tribulation. We've been in the tribulation. It is Jesuit heresy created by Jesuits, Lacunza, Ribera, of futurism, praetorism, all of that. We knew, Christians knew our prophecy inside and out. Certainly in the 1500s, the so-called reformers, they weren't reforming Catholicism, they were reforming Christianity. They all knew Rome was the fourth and final beast. All of that was rewritten by Jesuits.
So when you say every pope was an antichrist, what do you like? Since when do you mean?
Yeah, for me, the key passage is Matthew 24, where Christ says, you don't accept me, but there are going to be many who come in my name, and them you will accept. Adolf Hitler never claimed to be the Christ. Joseph Stalin is not nearly as well known, and he should be. Hitler killed maybe 9 million. Stalin killed 40 million. Mao Zedong, 70 to 100 million. He's invisible to us. None of them claim to be the Christ, the Christ or the Antichrist. None of them claim to be the Christ, although they certainly had the spirit of the Antichrist. Every single pope, when he sits ex cathedra, claims to be equal with Almighty God. They write in capital plural pronouns.
What does that mean?
That means when a pope says, we reaffirm that clergy will remain celibate. When he says we, he means me and God together. I am equal with God. I am equal with Jesus Christ.
Interesting, dude.
Every pope claims to be the equivalent of Jesus Christ. That makes him the Antichrist. Every pope.
That's a great point to bring up, because is that anywhere in the Bible, that celibacy
Matthew
thing?
24. Well, celibacy, no. Christ addressed it, and Christ said, and I'll give you the passage. I have to look it up. Some are born eunuchs, some are made eunuchs, and by eunuch, I believe he was using it as a metaphor for celibacy, not the specific being castrated, because that's
Okay.
really what a eunuch is,
Right.
being castrated. And some choose to be so. That's as far as Christ went. In no way, shape, or form did Christ say anyone that wants to serve me must be celibate, must be a eunuch.
Right.
And hopefully in air quotes. Although the Catholic Church did ritually castrate. If you look in Eddie Van Halen, who was a Roman Catholic, you look in his, I call it Vatipedia. It's so corrupt, Wikipedia. Go look in his Wikipedia.
Oh my God, dude. It's
it talks
horrible.
about was it a Dutch Catholic movement to castrate boys? I address it either of children. It's been part of this tradition that particularly boys who can sing, they'll be castrated before they hit puberty in an effort to keep their voices high, as a favor to them, of course.
Right. Well, who else would it be for?
Yeah, it would be for the perverts and the Satan worshipers that get a high off of such things, and there are a lot of them.
Yeah.
So anyway, real quick on Nephilim, there's so much going on, Jack. There's so much going on. How can you possibly fixate on this? And so I used to play it as background. Love Steve Quayle. Play it in the background. Giants this and Giants that. Well, from a military perspective, it's a non-issue.
Yeah.
It's a non-issue. We now have firepower that negates great size. Back in the time of David, that was a game changer.
That's a good point.
If there were no guns, that's a game changer. If you didn't have a bow and arrow, that's a game changer. David had a sling, and it still was enough to get the job done. Okay. So I really am, let's say, I don't want to say suspicious, but disappointed in Christian alternative media people that make this the foundation. Listen, I absolutely believe that there was skullduggery involved, particularly in the as a demonic move against the purity of the Messiah's bloodline.
Right.
Okay. One of the few times that Yahweh usually likes to sit back and manipulate, do things from the outside, have his children work on his behalf. Every once in a while, I was like, all right, I got to step in. One of the examples was when Abraham twice gave up his beautiful wife because he didn't want to be killed, because Egyptians and Canaanites, they were very moral people. They wouldn't take another man's wife until they killed the other man first.
Wow.
Hey, good people. They had the rules. They had their things. They wouldn't get, hey, I want her. Wait, is the husband still? Yeah, okay, kill him first. All right, now I can go take her. Good people. Twice, he pretended his wife, his beautiful wife, was his sister. Oh, yeah, she's free. She's available. Go ahead, take her.
Wow.
And twice, Almighty God personally intervened. Why? Because he loved Abraham, even though Abraham was a putz, to use the Jewish terminology. And much more importantly, he had to keep the purity of the Messianic bloodline.
Interesting.
Didn't want any chance of anybody, an Egyptian king or anybody, interfering with the lineage of Jesus Christ.
Wow.
So I absolutely believe. And if you have some kind of skullduggery of interdimensional beings playing with genetics, then there's a question as to whether or not Christ is whole, completely human. And if Christ is not completely human, then you get to checkmate the gospel, because his sacrifice no longer qualifies, or even better, from the demonic point of view, his sacrifice now qualifies for the demons too, for the fallen angels.
Right.
And it's not allowed to qualify for the fallen angels because they were in the midst of the glory of God. They were there when they turned their back on him. We get a second chance. We get a lifetime on this flat earth. And to throw another hand grenade, we get a lifetime to make a decision for or against Christ. And the catch is his glory is not immediately obvious to us. But for the angels, it was immediately obvious, and therefore they don't get a second chance. Sorry, that's just the rules. So anyway, there's just so much going on, Jack. There's so much going on. How can you focus on stuff that is a stretch unless you're just trying to, as it says, I think in Timothy, you're just trying to tickle the ears with stuff that's not important, sideshow, distraction, campfire stories.
Well,
here you're doing. Go ahead.
No, it's like that kind of, I think my friend Odd Man, conspiracy candy, where it's like
Right.
everyone loves that. I think that's what brings a lot in the beginning, whether it's aliens or giants. And if you get stuck there, you're making like zero progress because it's all this theory of speculation.
You have zero to offer your audience. But oddly enough, you get a lot of hits, you get a lot of promotion. It's weird how that works. And so you do a sensationalist variety show. So even if you hit good topics, this week we're doing the Jesuits, next week we're doing Elvis. This week we're doing Freemasonry, next week we're doing Bigfoot.
Right.
When what are you there to just keep people entertained, or are you there to help them? And this is why it's so important to me. What I do is so important to me because it's the big picture. I can tell you all day long, Illuminati, deep state, globalists, blah, blah. I can Satanists, SRA. I can give you these nebulous generic terms all day long, and you will have no idea how to free yourself. But if I tell you Jesuit run Rome, now we know who the enemy is. Now we know which of the Hydra's heads needs to be lopped off in order for us to win.
Right. Yeah. What's your take before we get into like Black Nobility? Because I think this New Age movement is like really exploding. I know you're on Twitter, but I don't know how active you're on Twitter, but it's like kind of butts heads with like
I'm invisible on Twitter.
That I'm sure you are, but it butts heads with like the conspiracy world, or whatever you want to call this group. But New Age thinking, like esoteric thing, they butt right next to each other, and there's all this overlap. I just see it keep growing. What's your take on what's happening in this war in our community, or whatever you want to call it? I'm not using the right phrase.
I never asked you. Can I ask your faith preference?
Yeah, I'm a Christian. Okay. So, yeah.
So good. Common ground. I figured you were, but I just, I want to make sure before I go approach this, because first of all, the godfather of the New Age is a Jesuit. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin is the godfather of the New Age movement. And he had this vision of everybody. We have this touchy-feely, whether you're with Jesus or not, you're all going to go to a single point of light out there, up in the universe somewhere. And it's very appealing. Yeah. Christianity as a faith, not a religion, as a faith. A religion is part of the problem. Christianity as a faith is restrictive. People might not like the message. Most people don't like the message because the message is self-control. The message is responsibility, discipline. Do what is right first. Take care of your wife. Take care of your kids. Take care of your responsibilities to Christ. Live for Christ. Sacrifice. If you have two choices, the choice that is the most painful and obnoxious is the one Christ wants you to take. Right. It's not a hard and fast rule. It's the one that I always follow, and I never get that wrong. Right. Take the choice that is the most painful, challenging, difficult. He will help you get through it, but that's the one you usually have to do. It's a tough message for a lot of people. It's a lot easier to say, hey, do what feels good. And if you're a really bad person, karma will bite you in the ass. You know? Right. I have dear people that I love and adore that I wish I could call friends, but I don't have a relationship with. Amanda Vollmer, Andy Kaufman, people who are doing phenomenal work in health and real health and fighting the are you on YouTube? So I'd be careful with my terms here. Fighting what we're currently dealing with.
Perfect. Got it.
What we're currently dealing with here. Great people. Hopefully, when I say their names, we don't give you a strike. But great people. But New Age, New Age,
right?
And so even with all the good stuff that they're doing, ultimately for spiritual health, there's a roadblock there. So the New Age is very, let me tell you something, along the same vein, as far as I'm concerned, the best, what I just told you about Christianity, what it means to be a Christian, self-control, discipline, pain, challenge, trial, denial, all this stuff, and in particular, regular, bold, painful self-examination. This is what makes Christians the best, sincere Christians, the best truth seekers, because we will search out truth no matter how much it hurts. We're already used to hurting ourselves for Christ. We do that all the time. We hunker down and force ourselves the pain. I don't want to go to prison and visit people. Are you kidding me? That's the scariest, creepiest. Oh man, lay awake at night. All right. You know what? My conscience, Christ, the Holy Spirit is not going to let me go. I'm fine. I'm going. We're already used to the pain and challenge of doing the right thing. You cannot be an investigator or truth seeker unless you are disciplined, and you're going to have preconceived notions no matter what. No matter what. You have to be courageous and honest and ethical to beat them down in the light of new information that might shake you up. And Christians, sincere Christians, are the best at it. There's always going to be people out there that bring their own preconceived notions and draw the line because it rocks their boat too much. Well, what about, flat earth? What about there's no such thing as viruses? What about, and I've said this, and I said this in Eaters of Children. Any journalist and any cop that says we never took their accusations seriously should be fired, because they're not doing their job. That's not your job. Your job is not to take something seriously or not. Your job is to investigate, period. And if a 9-year-old little girl comes in and says, I watched the governor murder my best friend and give her to dogs to eat, you don't step back and say, that's crazy. That's the governor. I'm not looking into that. That's not your job. You should be fired.
Right.
You should be fired. So Christians are the best at that, and New Age not so good. So that's why it's helpful.
No, yeah, I just found, because you see it, it's like it's from theosophy, and it's taken all these weird forms, whether it's like yoga and all these things that, like you said, it's hard to do the right thing, and this allows people. It's like that, do what thou wilt, almost like a libertarian belief, where like, oh well, prostitution should be legal and I can engage in it. It's society that's wrong, but really it's them who can't accept themselves. So they want to force that on us for us to accept them.
It is Aleister Crowley. Do what thou wilt is the whole of the law. It is Crowley-esque. And it's all part of that. And you know what? In that same vein, Jack, it is related to, again, this lack of personal discipline, lack of self-control. If they can hook a truth seeker on anything that they're weak, it's usually sex. It's usually some form of sex, because man, that drive is just there for most human beings.
Right.
And so that's also what they use for blackmail. But it can be other things. It can be other things, but it's not as powerful as sex. And so if they can hook people to be undisciplined on sex and to accept anything, then that's sort of the beginning. Well, I want to do the right thing. And yeah, I'm against whatever, Rockefeller medicine, but yeah, okay. I do want to lower the age of consent for, sex with teenagers. So as long as there is a foot in the door, as long as there is undisciplined, as long as people are squishy on something, or ethically squishy on something, that's a bonus. That's a bonus to the controllers. And New Age definitely provides that. Provides a lack of spiritual discipline, because and kind of anything goes. I'm not an expert on the New Age, but I'm familiar with it. And anything, do what thou wilt. Enjoy yourself, feel good. I don't have anything against it, but it's not. And that's why it's promoted. There is a malignant agenda to it. In the same way that, I don't have anything against somebody like Gary Wayne. I don't know Gary, but there's the Periscope going by. I have plenty of them here, so you'll probably see it on the screen too. That's awesome.
My cat walked by for anybody just listening.
Right. So, but whether Gary knows it or not, and let me tell you something, Jack. I think a lot of people out there know it. They know what gets rewarded. Mm-hmm. They know that they're not being particularly helpful or useful, and yet what they're involved in is getting a lot of hits. There's a reason for that. There's a reason, even in so-called, alternative sites, the BitChute and the Rumble and the Odyssey and all that, and there's ways. I guarantee you, even if the owners and the techs have done all they can to make sure, well, except for BitChute, because BitChute's search engine is absolutely useless. But other sites that have working search engines, right. I don't think that they're personally involved. I think it's outside forces.
Yeah.
That are still skewing things inside Odyssey. I'm unknown. I'm a little bit better, but I'm relatively unknown versus other people that have more, less helpful subject matter, and yet they're incredibly popular. Same thing for the other sites. So
yeah,
it's being helped. It's being enabled for a good reason, because it's not as dangerous.
Right. No, I totally agree with you. So I think you're one of the first people, and I've heard like that, Rome never fell kind of theory, I guess. So explain to people, because I'm sure a lot of us have like heard, but what conclusion you've come to with in regards to like the black nobility. And I know this is a huge topic, but I guess the cliff notes before we can like unpack it.
Yeah, the black nobility cliff notes are fast. They're hard and fast. Basically, it's this, Jack. By the way, it's a coincidence that Google was born on the birthday of the Jesuits, September 27th. That's just a coincidence, Jack.
I'm sure it is. Yeah.
Google was born on the September 27th birthday of the Jesuits. If you ask Google, find a way to ask Google what's the satanic automated voice. Does Google have its own voice? Amazon does. Everybody's got their own.
Yeah, everyone does.
Hi Siri. Hi Satan. Who really controls the world from behind the scenes? Rothschilds, Rockefellers, Soros. Mm-hmm. No. De Medici, Aldo Brandini, Orsini, Colonna. Who else? These are the families that produce popes. Borgia, Farnese. These are the families that produce cardinals and popes to this day. I think I was seeing like there's a Farnese governor in South America. I mean, to this day, they're still providing leaders. And so we focus on the wrong things and the wrong people for a reason. We're meant to focus on the people. They're in an odd way. They're still expendable. The Rothschilds. There's a reason why Rothschild is so ubiquitous. You could get rid of every Rothschild, and I'd love to. You could get rid of every Rothschild right now, and nothing would change.
No,
on purpose. Right. The Encyclopedia Judaica says they are the keepers of the Vatican fortune. That's all they are. And so here's one thing that black nobility doesn't have. They don't have confessionals. They don't have a hierarchy. They don't have a clergy. And so the black nobility are the foundation, the building bricks of the Jesuit-run Catholic Church, but they are not the Catholic Church. You can probably do a lot of good by getting rid of some of these evil, hugely wealthy families. Oh, real quick. The Farnese family villa. Guess what that looks like?
What?
The Pentagon.
Wow. Now that's interesting.
Which came first? The Farnese family villa. The Pentagon. The very first brick of the Pentagon was laid on September 11th, 1941. That's a coincidence, Jack.
Wow. I didn't know it was September 11th as well, yes. Dude. Very interesting.
Yes. So, who is it? Let's see here. Leon Font. Leon Font, the guy that laid out Washington, D.C., was a Roman Catholic Freemason. Oh, wait a minute. The Freemasons are at war with the Catholic Church.
Right.
Sure they are.
So is that,
Sure they are.
yeah, because that was one of my questions was didn't they write like a papal bull? Pope Clement, was it? I think it was him, right? Or no?
Yeah. There's that has been going on. It's cover because Freemasonry are the plausible deniability for
Right.
Rome.
Right.
When you guys were talking about how much harm England has done and how organized England has been, it's because of the Freemasons who are the puppets of the Vatican.
Okay.
For instance, now I'm not an expert on this, and the expert died at 33 by coincidence. That's a coincidence, Jack. Stephen Knight, phenomenal work. Stephen Knight on the real Jack the Ripper. Jack the Ripper is Freemasonry. What happened was Prince Albert had a Roman Catholic lower class wife and child.
Okay.
And the midwives that delivered the child were, they were not treated very well by the royal family. What a surprise.
Right.
They ended up going out and finding their own way. Many became prostitutes out of necessity, out of being poor. And so they had this idea, are you kidding me? They are so corrupt. The royals are so corrupt. And we're here, throwing our bodies in front of these pigs so that we can eat. Let's go ahead and blackmail, because you're not allowed to ascend to any leadership in England if you're Catholic, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not allowed if you marry a Catholic. Of course, that's been changed now.
Right.
If you're a practicing Catholic, marry a Catholic, let's go ahead and blackmail them. We're going to let this out of the bag if they don't take care of us the way they always should have. And so the Freemasons in Scotland Yard went out and made a lesson of these prostitutes and just shredded their bodies as a message. Don't you ever try to blackmail the royals about their connections to the Catholic Church.
Interesting.
That's what Freemasonry does for England. The Boer Wars. Who were the Dutch? The Dutch were Protestants.
Right.
The English are phony Protestants. Anglicanism is Catholic light.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
The Freemasonic, they are the Freemasonic handmaid of Rome. And Rome, as you did the same thing in Ireland. There's this myth that as you uncover the orchestrated famines in Ireland, there's this myth that it was the design of Protestant England to slaughter the Catholic Irish. No, it wasn't. It was the Catholic Vatican using phony Protestant England to slaughter Catholic Ireland. And what was the end result of the famine? America was seeded with millions of Irish Catholic immigrants who became cops, who became governors, who became mayors, et cetera, et cetera.
What's your take? So I read one book. It was like Freemasonry behind the revolutions, and like how Freemasons overthrew all the monarchies of Europe. They were behind, the French Revolution and even the American Revolution. What's your take on? Because
Balderdash, rubbish.
Yeah. So his point he was making was that monarchies at that time offered the best protection for the people, and they wanted to institute constitutional republics because this is what you will get when you end with the constitutional republic, where you have total corruption.
Yeah, right.
And so that's what he said. That was the goal of the Freemasons, and they openly admit, they caused the French Revolution, all those revolutions.
Oh yeah, there we go. If you're going to say Freemasonry caused the French Revolution, then you're either criminally negligent or you're a Jesuit.
What do you mean by that?
The French Revolution has Jesuit Rome written all over it. I'm. Let's go back to let's use the American Revolution. That's an even better example.
Yeah, that's perfect.
I first of all, when I say that I'm critical of that, what Yes, absolutely. Freemasons played a role. Yes, they were soldiers.
Mhm.
They weren't the brains of the operation. Rome
Yeah.
was the brains of the operation. I recommend, after my 4, hopefully 5 books coming up, right after those, I recommend Frederick Tupper Saucy's Rulers of Evil. He makes a phenomenal case for the Jesuits being behind the American Revolution, and in particular, Lorenzo Ricci, the superior general. He's so good. Some people on my team think he's a Jesuit. He's passed, by the way.
I'm gonna
He's
have to look him up and get his name again.
oh my goodness, you have to read Rulers of Evil, the most critical book outside of all mine, the most critical book to have to put all this in perspective. You know, off the top of my head, I don't know if he mentions this. George Washington was blown up as this child prodigy because he wrote this book of etiquette as a teenager. He didn't write the book. He copied it from French Jesuits and got credit for it. How is George Washington? Where was his education? That's all a mystery to us. How is George Washington exposed to a book of etiquette written by French Jesuits and then copying it, and all of a sudden that's just George Washington's? In the same way that you know, that big obelisk that looks a lot like a human body part, that's the Washington Monument. That
Right.
Listen, the first thing I think of when I see that big thing is with George Washington, right? Don't you?
Right. Yes.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
That's all part of the demonic sex magic of that thing being across a dome, which is the mirror image in St. Peter's Square.
Interesting. Wow.
The mirror image of an obelisk stolen from Heliopolis in Egypt, because at the heart of the Vatican are sun worshipers.
Right.
If you look down on St. Peter's Square, you see the 8-spoked sundial that looks like a British flag for a reason.
Mhm.
It's all part of this Gnostic, satanic, ancient sun worship distraction crap. Across from a dome, which is a womb.
Right.
And a lot of times they'll have something on top of this obelisk, not to get pornographic, but as a purpose. And it is satanic. It is satanic.
Right.
I believe the Heliopolis obelisk in St. Peter's Square has a cross on top of it. That's telling you, that's saying something. It's actually a demonic heresy. A cross on top of an obelisk in St. Peter's Square is a pornographic demonic heresy. Why? Because Jesus Christ is not born of the seed of man. He was a miraculous birth.
Right.
And that's the first prophecy in Genesis chapter 3. The seed of the woman. Woman doesn't have a seed. That's a hint at the virgin birth of Jesus Christ.
Wow, I've never made that connection before. That's a good one.
Yeah, and the same one where the Catholic Bible, everybody else's Bible says that this seed of the woman will be at war. Well, not at war, but will struggle with the serpent, and the serpent will bite at his heel, and he will crush the serpent's head. That's not really war. That's I'm going to kick your ass.
Right.
The Catholic Bible changes the pronoun from he to her as part of a satanic heresy to put the focus on Mary, and not Jesus Christ.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. What's so, like, for hundreds of years, like, I struggle with this. So this, like, talking about Jesuits and kind of Satan worship, like the CIA in the 50s, or when they're created, they appear to be staunch Wall Street capitalists. And now we have this turning point where the CIA clearly is pushing out, or whether not them or controlled NGOs, this woke world that seems to go against everything that was like pushed in the 50s. And I just wonder, like, why is this like demonic, like that kind of, Aleister Crowley, do what thou wilt mantra is coming in more and more, as opposed to, does that make sense? My question, what I'm asking?
It does. And here's where I can tweak your question for you, and hopefully it makes sense. It was always demonic. They were never patriotic capitalists. It was always evil. It was always, that's why I got out of the military. It's because it just was so obvious that America's greatest enemies are her own institutions. The Office of Strategic Services, the forebearer of the Central Intelligence Agency, was created by a Roman Catholic Wall Street lawyer, Mild Bill Donovan.
Yes,
Mild Bill Donovan.
It's yes.
A Wall Street lawyer, a knight of Saint Sylvester, I believe. I believe he got the his knighthood from Pius number 12, so-called Hitler's Pope. It's the other way around. Hitler was Pius's little biatch. Pius was Eugenio Pacelli. By the way, a Freemason and a Pope. Wait a minute, they're at war. Yeah. Pacelli was the nuncio to, was it both Austria and Germany in the pre-war years? Perfectly timed in the 20s and 30s to help get things going in Nazi Germany. Adolf Hitler was managed by a Jesuit named Bernard Stempfel.
Was he the one who wrote Mein Kampf?
Yes.
I know okay.
Yes. Who wrote Mein Kampf? A Jesuit. Oh,
right.
That's a coincidence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who's really behind things? The Illuminati. That's what got me doing what I do. Is I heard Illuminati this, Illuminati that, 10 years ago. And then I looked up Johann Adam Weishaupt, from a family of Jews that converted to Catholicism.
Yes.
And devout Roman Catholics, just like William Barr, Donald Trump's big man in justice there, and surrounded by Jesuits his entire life. Started his Jesuit education at 7 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've got at least two separate sources that say he himself was an ordained Jesuit. Johann Adam Weishaupt was an ordained Jesuit. I'm pretty sure I've got two sources on that. Taught canon law at Jesuit Ingolstadt University in Bavaria. I was shocked, Jack, when I saw all this and I heard Illuminati, and never the word Jesuit. I'm like, what? How has all this been missed?
Right.
They're either criminally incompetent or they're on the team.
And that makes sense.
Yeah, that was the big turning point for me. It's why I wrote Illuminati Unmasked. Is that revelation that Rome has been behind it all along and masking her footprints, covering them up.
Well, I like what you said also about like the Rothschilds being ubiquitous, because if you're truly running this like global conspiracy,
you'd be invisible, wouldn't you?
Right. You're not going to be the name that everybody knows that is talked about ad nauseum,
like Jeffrey Epstein.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
If okay, well, he killed himself, so we don't have any problem with child trafficking anymore, right?
Right. Yes.
No.
Yeah.
He was expendable and a Jew and an expendable Jew, and both together, so that we could focus on that. How the heck are you kidding me? A child pimp to the rich and shameless is headline news.
Yeah.
Okay. Either the top of the Illuminati pyramid sucks at what they do, or they're really, really good at what they do.
Right.
And they pick that guy out as expendable. And, I fully would not be shocked to find out that he's sipping Mai Tais on his orgy island right now. They're definitely, the official story is ludicrous. And I'm pretty sure that his death is ludicrous too. And there's a reason why, I don't know, Ghislaine, whatever, Gazelle, however you want to say her name,
right?
Maxwell. There's a reason why there are no photographs of her perp walking. in cuffs, in an orange jumpsuit. That's suspicious for me too. And bolstered by the fact that I heard from independent journalists, a guy that I respect, but am disappointed that he too doesn't give the big picture. Ben Swan, love his work, but he's all symptoms and no big picture, probably for a purpose, for a reason. Ben Swan said that he put effort into getting the pictures of her booking, and nobody would acknowledge him for that. Oh, that's interesting.
That is interesting.
So I'm very suspicious of Ghislaine Maxwell's going on trial. Sure, she is. Give me that oily painting thing that yours are, because we're not allowed to have cameras in the sacred courtroom. Supreme Court. How many Catholics are on the Supreme Court? Like 7? Are you kidding me? Oh, it's the Freemasons. It's the Rothschilds, right? And there's like 2 or 3 token Jews in the Supreme Court. If you want to control America, you do it in the courts,
right,
where the citizens have no recourse, where the laws and the rules are dictated to you. Even if you go, you know how hard it is to get a law, to write a law, to have all these lawyers, these ambulance chasing snakes, write 2,000 pages of a law like so-called Obamacare. Yeah, like Barack Obama has anything to do with socialized medicine.
Right.
He had to look at the teleprompter to even sign.
Right.
What I sign? Sign now. Okay, I will sign right now. The guy's a puppet. The guy's a total puppet, and I feel like a fool because I focus some of my anger, and I think that came out in Illuminati en masse on the point. The guy was a sexually abused puppet of the CIA by his own father, which is he made him so pliable, made him bisexual. Is the abuse that he had. That's why no one wants to get into this concept of where does homosexuality come from. A lot of it comes from sexual abuse, where you destroy children, particularly boys. You're a man is sodomizing a boy. You're destroying that child's psyche.
Yeah, absolutely.
Phil Saviano of Boston Globe and Spotlight fame recently died. Supposedly had AIDS. No, he didn't have AIDS. AIDS doesn't exist. Nobody knew he was homosexual. Oh, was that another hand grenade? I'm sorry. Nobody knew he was. I didn't know he was homosexual. A gay man with AIDS. Gee, I wonder if that had anything to do with his abuse. Abused by a priest. Absolutely. How many beautiful people in Hollywood, particularly the females, end up being homosexual? Gee, I wonder if there was trauma that they suffered. Ellen.
Yeah. Elliot Page, yeah.
Ellen Page, thank you. Ellen Page. A long list of beautiful people that should have anything they want, and yet they prefer their own gender. Gee, I wonder what was going on there.
I saw on your one book or on your website, you talk about serial killers. And right now I'm reading David McGowan's Program to Kill. Have you ever read that?
Yeah, I've got it. I haven't read it cover to cover, but fantastic work.
Yeah. But it basically just says like how you were talking about your serial killers, you're talking about of days of old more. And he talks about kind of the same thing, that these serial killers are, abused, they're set out, and they're probably not, they're patsies, a lot of them, but they've all suffered. That's the common thread, is they've all been abused at one point or another, whether their mom.
Jeffrey Dahmer's father learned chemistry at Jesuit Marquette.
Ooh, there
Jeffrey
you go.
Dahmer's father learned chemistry at Jesuit, and Jeffrey Dahmer's father likely sexually abused him. Jeffrey Dahmer spent 4 years in the military and likely drugged and sodomized a fellow soldier, and nothing happened to him as a result. Jesuit Marquette University bought Jeffrey Dahmer's entire apartment building and razed it to the ground.
I'm sure that was all by accident.
It's a coincidence, Jack. It's just a coincidence. Jeffrey Dahmer's prosecutor was a collared Jesuit priest. Jeffrey Dahmer's useless defense lawyer learned law at Jesuit Marquette University. It's a coincidence, Jack.
What's your take? So like, I've read, I forget whose book on the Jesuits, but they got kicked. They went over to Asia. I think they were successful in Japan for a little while, right? Then they get kicked out, or maybe I'm conflating.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was one of the co-founders, Francis Xavier, it was his dying wish to make it into China.
Yeah.
And he only got as far as Japan and died in Japan. And this brings about the entire gaslighting of Roman Catholic Scorsese's silence. So the Jesuits were kicked out of Japan because the Japanese realized that they were an invading army.
Right.
That they were gathering intelligence, that they were subverting Japanese authority, which is what they do everywhere.
Yes.
That's their job. It is in the blood oath of the final oath of unction, the fourth and final vow of the Jesuits, that if you attain the proper level, that you hold the dagger close to your heart and you swear that no king, no president will stand in the way of doing the will of the Pope, that regicide and whatever needs to be done, blackmail, to use the confessional, whatever I need to do, strangle babies with their own umbilical cords, whatever brutal, evil, satanic crap, I was going to say a bad word, is part of what they do. And so eventually the Japanese aristocracy found this out, that it was an insurgency, that they were Christians and yet they were an invading army. So they didn't like that for some reason.
Shocking.
They told the Jesuits first they tried to restrict them. And of course that didn't work. Then they kicked them out, and that didn't work. The Jesuits stayed and went underground. And when they finally found them, that they had still were doing what they were told not to do, then they rounded them up, imprisoned them, killed them, and tortured some of them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where silence suddenly comes in. Silent about the previous history as to why, and total gaslighting, the most evil guy in silence. What did they call him? The Inquisitor. Are you effing kidding me? The bad guy, the Japanese bad guy that tortures the poor Jesuits is the Inquisitor. Wait a minute. The Japanese didn't have inquisitors. The Jesuits had inquisitors.
Oh, interesting.
The Jesuits were so good at viciously, satanically torturing people. And I got to look it up. I forget which Pope did this. Took the Inquisition from the Dominicans and gave it to the Jesuits. Because they were so evilly good at torturing.
Wow.
And yet, the bad guy Japanese, he's the Inquisitor. Are you kidding me?
So what I was wondering, like China, you have this like fake, or is it real? This dispute between America and China. So that's another thing I struggle with. Like, so if there's a global, is it just all theater? Are they all controlled by the same?
They can't make up their mind. They can't make up their mind because it is theater. And so at one point, we're enemies. We're enemies with the communist Chinese.
Right.
And at another point, a Jesuit-trained Italian Roman Catholic who runs infectious diseases for the United States government, his name rhymes with Ouchie.
I wonder, is
giving money to the communist Chinese to develop these little boogie things.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
What? Why isn't anybody asking, wait a minute, are they our enemies or are they our friends that we are paying to develop these boogie things for us?
Right.
Why is no one even asking that question? Big picture. Are they good guys or are they bad guys? I mean, good guys and allies.
Right. Right.
Allies of our government, which makes them bad because our government is evil.
Yeah.
Or are they our enemy? Which is it? It flips back and forth. No,
right.
It's a game. As a matter of fact, Go Wen-ji, I think, is the real estate, the multi-billionaire real estate developer who is very close to Jesuit-trained Goldman Sachs guys, Kevin Bannon. Go Wen-ji said that the communist Chinese send $2 billion a year to the Vatican in tribute.
Wow, really?
As permission to stay in existence. because Roman Catholicism is an insurgency. If the Jesuit Pope suddenly decided he didn't like things in China, as evil and brutal as things are in China, that sits very well in the same way that every single prominent Catholic is a far left, pro-abortion, pro-recognition of homosexual marriage. That sits very well with the Jesuit Pope. He likes it that way.
Mm-hmm.
If he didn't, he could change it like that. He could unseat the communist Chinese government overnight because of the billions of Catholics in China that answer to him and not to the premier.
Wow.
And that has been the case from 500 AD through to today. Rome never fell. $2 billion in tribute. Will you please allow us to stay in power? Are you kidding me? And no one knows this.
Right. Yeah, I never heard that before.
Rome never fell. Look it
so
up.
you-
I'll send it to you. Go
You
win.
think-
Jesus.
yeah.
And I'll
You
have to
think-
give you the proper spelling of it. Says that the communist Chinese, 2 billion. Peter's pence, they call it. Peter's pence. Give me my due.
So you think, when did they accumulate all this power? Because, obviously Europe was in turmoil in the Middle Ages, or, there's been wars. Were all these wars?
Yeah, 538 AD, Roman Emperor Justinian says that the Bishop of Rome is the bishop of bishops and corrector of heretics. Right there.
Wow.
When power, and Constantine did a lot of this too, although I'm not willing to say that he was a satanic fraud sun worshiper. There is evidence to that end, but there's also evidence that he might have been Christian. I don't know.
Okay.
He did unfortunately start the centralization of Christianity in Rome simply because that's where he was.
Right.
And he's the emperor.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't Christianity be centered in Rome?
Right.
But there were other forces. Like I said, Emperor Justinian finalized it by saying the Bishop of Rome is the bishop of bishops and corrector of heretics. Christianity.
Go ahead. No, I wanted to ask one other question from you as well. Like,
before you, because I will go down rabbit hole to the rabbit hole to the rabbit hole. Let me just finish a thought, and then you ask your question, and then we'll start down again. And a little spider web. I mean, we're almost out of bloody time already.
Yeah.
So real quick, Christianity is a decentralized faith based on a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Anything less is a satanic heresy. Every organized religion that calls itself Christian, that has a hierarchy, is from Satan and is corrupted, period.
No,
Christianity is and therefore, even though it's not accurate for Paul to say, give unto Caesar, or Christ, give unto Caesar, and Paul says, obey the authorities. Well, the problem, Paul, is that he knew this. Authorities don't do good. Is the government going to take care of you for doing good, or is the government going to punish you for doing good? The government's going to punish you for doing the right thing. Therefore, the conditional arrangement is broken, and you are not obligated to obey government because government's no longer godly. He knew that, and his point was to spread the gospel. He didn't want revolution because you're not going to get a revolution against the Roman army, the Roman military.
Right.
Different topic. That's another hour for another. So real quick. So Christianity is at its best, at its finest, as a decentralized worship in your own home with friends and family. What is this mini pilgrimage where you get everybody up, you put a suit on, and you go and you hang up your brain and your soul at the door, and you listen to a guy that was trained by Jesuits give you a bunch of bunk. And you punch the time card, check the box, and you go home and do whatever you want.
Yeah.
That's not Christianity. Christianity is a personal relationship with Jesus Christ every minute of the day. That's why John uses the figurative language of it being a marriage. The bride of Christ. We're the bride of Christ. That's the best thing that happened with our current situation right now, with the mask and you're not allowed to go anywhere, is that we're kicked out of the churches. Best thing that ever could have happened. Same thing with the schools. Don't go to school. Don't go to church. They're bad for you. Yeah. The best thing you could do as a Christian is stay home. Read your own Bible. worship, study with your family and your friends. That's what it was meant to be. That's what it was meant to be. Let me shut up and let you get your question in before we run out of time.
Have you ever, there's this one guy who wrote a book about how Rome never fell. It's like a PDF. And he basically said they went to Greenland and have you ever heard of this story?
No. And it's likely usually when silly stuff like that takes off, it's based in truth and then spun into ridiculous.
Okay. I gotta find, I'm going to send you the PDF. I read it before, but he basically, like, he does all these, like, Greenland without the vowels and all this stuff like that. And, you know, and some of the part he like said also that, like, it was Romans who invented the black powder before the Chinese. They, you know, and they gave it.
I'll take a look. Send it to me. I'll take a look. It's probably, like I said, it's probably based in truth and then spun up on the stupid.
Okay.
Probably based in truth.
I have to get it to you.
Ridiculous.
Because I'd love your take on it.
Yeah, the Templars, for instance, when the Templars were beat down by Philippe le Bel on Friday the 13th, October 13th in 1307, they weren't all killed. They went underground. And a lot of them went to Switzerland. They're the Swiss Guard today. They're entrusted with the security of the Pope.
So that the Templars they just rebranded.
A lot of them went underground, but their techniques, their knowledge, their Gnosticism, their Satanism. I really believe that there's a vein. I mean, this is a whole nother show too. They're part of what made the Templars, what made it easy for Philippe le Bel to frame the Templars as Satan worshipers, is because there is to this very day a heresy that Saint John the Baptist is the real Messiah.
I've heard this.
And Yeshua of Nazareth is a pretender. And that's why we should always be here listening for St. John's Church, St. John's this, St. John's that. As long as they're talking about John the Baptist, they're talking about their real Messiah. That's why beheading is such a big deal. Rome, the Vatican, was beheading Christians centuries before the CIA was doing it and calling it jihad.
Right.
So there's a whole nother show there. So anyway.
No, Johnny, how can everyone support you? Where can they find your work? All those things like that.
Go to Conspiracy or Just a Coincidence. That's the best thing you do. And then after you go there, go to johnnycirucci.com and my website there. You can find my 4 books on Amazon as of right now. Praise God. You can still find them on Amazon. Illuminati on Mass, Secret History, Eaters of Children, and Romans of Mass Destruction, Volume 1. I don't know if I'm going to do Volume 2. It's so bad right now, Jack. I think that once I write this book about what's going on right now and little boogie things and crimes and foxtrot.
Right.
I actually got like 2017 posts from Facebook were taken down because I had the word foxtrot.
Wow.
Unbelievable. I had a meme of the girl crying at Sandy Hook.
Right.
And I put Darth Vader behind her.
Yeah.
And I said, wake up. It's called a foxtrot. They took that down. I'm bullying. I'm bullying by doing that. I'm at a point now where I'm going to wash my hands. I'm going to get a job. I'm going to get some more guns, more property, live out in the hills somewhere and just hunker down and just wait it out. Because enough's enough, man.
It's not a bad idea, man. That's my goal. So
good.
Well,
love
Johnny,
you, brother. It's wonderful
I
to see
appreciate
you again. JohnnyChristian.com and all my video stuff is on Odyssey. So,
I'll post that link in the description, the Odyssey one, and your website.
We'll do. I'll thank you. I'll give you all that stuff. I'll send it to you in Twitter. We're connected.
Twitter.
I'll send out stuff
Perfect.
to Twitter.
So Johnny, you're so well versed, and you've read more books than I have, and I love listening to you talk. You're passionate, and I love it. So thanks for being on the show, dude. And we'll do it again soon.
I love you back, brother. I'm at your service anytime you want. Man. You're a friend.
All right, Johnny, take care.
Nice, Jack. Take care, brother.
Yeah.